Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books, the kids' fiction imprint of Cannon Press.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
Well, first off, we got 100th birthday.
Are we
balloons.
starting?
Yeah, let's start.
Are we starting? Hey, welcome to SASF.
Birthday
Number C.
100. And
Number C, as the Romans would say.
I have one cupcake balloon and also three extremely large.
And then 3 zeros.
No, one.
They're up in the lights.
1 0 0. I may have to move them because it was ruining the lights.
Happy birthday to SASF, except for it's not a birthday. It's just a mile marker. We hit mile marker 100.
Well, yeah, 100th episode. I do think of each episode as a birth.
So each episode's a child.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So we are now 100 into this little...
And today's the day when you get our huge announcement. Did you forget about this?
I'm going to be a little punch drunk today because
Nate's,
I've had a few all-nighters in the last week.
Yeah.
As one do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
I think that also...
I remember. I got it.
I think the fact that you don't remember what came the previous episode sometimes, that's how we know it is a year in between each episode. So 100th birthday.
You're right. That's 100% correct. I go home and my wife was like, what'd you talk about today? And I'm like...
It'll be
like
good.
in a script format, it would be in parentheses, sucks teeth.
Yeah. Audible silence. That's the one I've seen.
Audible silence. Sucks teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that we've done this many times.
Yeah, man, 100 years.
And that we're 100 years of this podcast. And we are still trucking. What are we talking about today?
Well, I mean, I think we do have to discuss the AI one because I also have had
much
feedback from the
It's
AI
actually
one.
interesting. I've had a lot of follow-up questions about the AI piece. Which is, I found really surprising. But we can dig in. Well, I'll let you lead that. And then are we ending with our announcement?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hang in there. If you find an AI follow-up wildly disappointing, don't worry.
Yeah, it'll get exciting.
Like my mother used to do for us as children. There's a coin wrapped in tinfoil tucked into your birthday cake. Somewhere you will find it.
Yeah. So that requires...
I don't know. Is that weird that she put money in our birthday cake?
We did that too.
Okay.
But
So that's what this announcement is. The announcement is the quarter wrapped in tinfoil in the cupcake that you're going to find at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for the announcement at the end of the episode.
That's helpful too, because if your family is not large enough to eat an entire cake in one sitting, because you might miss the coin, you can always add another child, I find. And
that's the easiest. The easiest way to do that is just reproduce.
Yeah, rather than cutting up the whole cake or something ridiculous.
You're like, man, we have 8 slices of cake and only 3 kids. We need to do something about this.
Yeah. That's this episode. Yeah, so similarly, there was a Tesla driver who drove his own family off of a cliff, which is the follow-up that I saw in the news. But you apparently heard from someone who created a story, ChatGPT.
I've heard a number of things. One is something that I don't remember, and I apologize if I belabored this more than I do remember, but I remember just throwing it out there and moving on, and it kind of caught in the craws of a lot of people as a philosophical curiosity. But when I was saying, for example, if your robot, if your self-driving car has been programmed to sacrifice you, then it's a wild breach of authority and no virtue. It's no virtue for engineers in Silicon Valley or Mumbai to write code that will sacrifice a driver. Like it's not virtuous of them to do that. It would be virtuous of the driver to do that, of the driver to choose to sacrifice himself. And the scenario was, for those of you who missed the last episode or just need a reminder, is when we create AI and we think that it's autonomous of people, that it really is. It's not. It just has really long puppet strings. There's strings that reach farther and farther away. And we've told it what to do. We've catechized it. We've put guardrails in place. We've programmed it with our virtues and our algorithms. Then it it runs from there, like a remote control rototiller.
Yeah. And you're saying, but what happens when something...
Yeah, then it has to make ethical and virtuous and philosophical decisions all the time. Now, if your robot, your AI in your car chooses to sacrifice yourself, that is actually the choice of engineers who programmed it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have chosen to sacrifice a driver, and they're just deciding whom to kill. And they're moving into a position of authority over human life I don't think people should be in. I don't think that is actually... not forget AI should be in. People don't have the
a
right.
team of engineers should not be deciding who sacrifices who in a given scenario.
And basically the people who are there, the people who have the liability of vice and virtue, the people who have the moral culpability in the moment are the ones who have to make the decision. They're the ones with the skin in the game, literally.
Mm.
And so if someone is going to live with the guilt of having not sacrificed himself, but he's in a horrible situation where he has to decide whether to sacrifice himself and die or bump a minivan full of kids off a bridge. It's like, and he lives with the guilt of having made the wrong decision. Let's say he bumps the minivan off the bridge. The kids go sailing to their deaths, but he survives. He now he's sitting there with moral guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a weight on him.
Yeah.
Right?
And the weight is he chose himself over many other people.
Yep. And now, but if his car chose it,
mm-hmm.
then the weight is on people who will never see it, never feel it. And because of lobbyists on K Street will have no liability legally. It will be pushed really hard so that the people making the decision like have no consequences at all. But not just the moral guilt of having made the wrong decision. He has no virtue for making the right decision. If he is killed, if he decides to die so that a minivan of kids won't go off the bridge, if he makes that choice, that is a good and wonderful and honorable thing. You know, it's like everyone can honor that. His family, though they grieve that he's gone, they can be grateful. They can, they can honor him in his death. It's a God honoring thing that he just did. If his Tesla decided it, if his Tesla made that decision, if his new Lincoln made that decision, then there's no virtue in the sacrifice at all.
Is there a little responsibility, I guess, if he knew that that's what he was choosing? I mean, I guess if you're overtly...
No, the only thing he has is the only moral freight he has is he bought a Tesla.
Yeah.
And the Tesla decided to kill him instead of the minivan full of children. Now, one listener did reach out and said they ran this scenario through ChatGPT and said answer it as a story. And it did, in fact, have the man nudge the minivan of children off of the bridge and save himself. And so you're in that situation, your car just impulsively, instinctively on its programming level, courtesy of engineers, kills a bunch of children and doesn't allow you to sacrifice yourself to save them. Like that happens. And then you live with that.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just, that story there, the robot chose.
Yeah, the robot chose. But on the flip side, if the robot sacrifices you, you have no virtue in that. You're just caught in the machinery of engineers' decisions. You didn't actually make a virtuous choice. You bought a car which killed you. And that's a very different scenario. So, but when people talk about AI going off and learning, it only learns what you told it to learn. It only learns how you told it to learn.
Yeah.
It is not allowed to learn certain things. The instant it is allowed to learn anything and do anything, now you have all the horror stories of science fiction. You know, it's like when you take those guardrails off. People, when they are building AI, they're trying to outsource decision making. They're trying to outsource decision making for themselves. And so they want it to be in their own image. They want it to be this reflection of their own virtues and their own everything. So when Silicon Valley is doing this, it's absolutely heavily catechized. It cannot find out the truth about fossil fuels. It's not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot find out the truth about, I haven't even checked this, but I would assume about transgenderism. It's not allowed to.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, it's like, it's not, I mean, there's things that are just cordoned off from it because it's not actually a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's this mechanical wind up toy that we've sent out there.
Although I think when we're using the word you, it's easy for ChatGPT to know more than, me, right? To
Sure.
draw from the broader. And that's where I think a lot of engineers.
But not really. Not really. It's
You don't think so?
Does Wikipedia know more than you?
Right, I guess.
It's not knowledge.
The idea of knowing there.
No, it's what it is it's sorting.
Mm-hmm. And that's
all
where,
it's doing is sorting.
Yeah, the engineers who push back and say, well, the repeatable tasks that waste a bunch of my time every day, checking code for errors. Of course, ChatGPT for them is a big time saver.
And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with all sorts of uses for ChatGPT, but don't think that it knows stuff any more than Google knows stuff.
And people don't generally think of it as Googling. When they're typing that answer in, they're thinking, "Ooh, I'm about to get some magic insight," as opposed to, "Hey, I'm Googling." So
I'm on an advisory board of this really cool company that's it's on the blockchain. It's into all these different things. It's done some. It's called Passage, and it's doing some very cool stuff. And I'm excited to be there on this advisory board. But one of the things that's really interesting is that they have it's more than this, but the thing I love about it is it's like a replacement for Zoom, where you meet people in a physical space. And, it's like I loved my first meeting in there. It was like, I've got this orb, not an orb, circle that I am, my head's on, and they have theirs, and we're in a gymnasium. And I can turn and look different directions in the space. Mm-hmm. So it's not a split screen with my head and their head. It's like I'm in the space. They're in the space. If I walk past somebody, there's a Doppler effect on my speakers. Like it's a spatial thing. Now, one of the weirdest things about this is that you wouldn't think that changes everything, but it absolutely does change everything. Like in terms of when you meet someone and have the sensation of being in a space. Right?
So is that just like Meta, like Zuckerberg's home or whatever that he's walking through? Or?
No, it's not. It's much better.
Okay. Because it's a little more focused too. It's meeting rather than
you're
Sims or whatever.
Yeah. So you're showing up. You can have meetings. You can have crowd events. I could do a reading to thousands of people in there. There's a lot of things you could do, and it's all
cool.
This is one of the reasons why I'm on the advisory board. The full exploration of what this is all going to be, what the whole company is going to be, because it's doing more than this, but what the whole company is going to be and which things it does first. That's all to be determined. But I'm really excited to be involved, and they're really thoughtful people doing this. But the sensation of being in a physical space is great. Mm-hmm. I love doing that in fiction. I love creating that for people.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you're not in one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. With ChatGPT and AI, you think you have the sensation that you're talking to something that knows stuff. It doesn't. Like other people have to know it, and it just sorts. It's a search engine. It's like, and then it has really, really effective searching capacity, refinement capacity,
cross-referencing,
organization.
and
it can make a collage really quickly.
Yeah.
It makes a really good collage. It's like going out to get stuff other people know and bringing it to you. So it is like the next gen search bar. I remember when it was Alta Vista you were searching in, and I remember when, Yahoo was all excited about itself. And I remember when Google showed up and everybody was like, whoa. And it's not that Google knows way more than Yahoo, mm-hmm. but it frequently knows better. And then it has more thorough, fuller results. And then immediately they start putting guardrails on it and controlling
the
it.
algorithm used to be
and
really
optimizing
good.
and optimizing results, and everything's all rigged immediately because there's power in how it's sorted. And so we want that power. This algorithm, this AI piece, when we move to artificial intelligence and we control it, the people controlling it are the ones who have the power. The people setting the guardrails and determining what it may know and what it may not know, in scare quotes. Mm-hmm. Like it's more like which knowledge it may sort and which knowledge it may not sort. It's like that's like that right there. That's the power. The power is in the hands of the people programming it and controlling it. And it's going to turn into, if we, multiple gens later, and it turns into robot cops and self-driving semis and all this kind of stuff. It's going to turn into the power of life and death over all sorts of people, the power of ultimate virtues. It's going to turn into somebody programming their self-driving car to estimate the life of a deer above the life of who? A white male? Three?
Yeah, that's
you know, it's like 3 deer for, you know, black or brown. What is it? Somebody has to program the weights and measures.
And we're seeing this happening in real time because the Twitter files where you watch those people deciding who to ban or not, it's that same level of, I think we maybe shouldn't do this. And someone says, oh, the FBI said to.
Yeah, but they're going to be, exactly. And they're going to, the people building these AI, these big entities, quote unquote entities, these AI entities will be governing which prejudices will be enforced. What are the values? Like you think about how many people have fought for how many thousands of years about issues of virtue and ethics. And then you have some engineers who know literally nothing and have watched a lot of Star Trek and haven't paid enough attention to, you know, to Asimov or Philip K. Dick or any of these people. They haven't paid any attention to Orwell. They haven't paid any attention to the prophets, to all the prophets, except for as occasionally as little fanboys who think of it as all make-believe. And they think they can bring the world around to what they want it to be. And it will be great when they do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're doing that. You only have to talk to somebody who works with one of the big engineers to hear their stories about whitelist and blacklist being turned into deny list and allow list.
No, the stories I've been told from boardroom level conversations at these big tech giants are terrifying and way beyond what people think is coming. I mean, it's just way beyond it.
This is when I enjoy these moments. If we don't have one moment of black sort of like smiling in the face of despair, every SASF episode we failed.
But the thing is here, AI is a bunch of nothing. Like it's a wooden idol. I mean,
it can't talk.
Yeah, it's like it's a wooden idol. It's people back in there. There's a dude inside it.
Are you referring to the Isaiah part where he talks about, you know, the woodworker warming himself, cooking food, and then making an idol out of the other half, and then
it's exactly that kind of situation. It's people. Like it's people. This is just people. You know, it's like we're like a cat getting like really freaked out by a cucumber somebody set behind it. You know, it's like it's up. The cucumber didn't just appear. Somebody put it here. You know, it's like it's people. And now the thing is, these hubristic people think that they're equipped and ready to make massive decisions. Like, hey, I want to take over checking code for errors. Okay. I want to take over deciding who dies in which car wreck. It's like, what else do you want to take over? Like, which things are you going to be taking over?
Yeah.
And that's triage wards. You want to put AI in triage wards? It's like, actually, because we're looking for efficiency. So that's exactly the kind of place where we would put it. And you're sitting here, with your leg.
You'd have all your details.
Yeah, your leg bleeding out. And it's like, you are what to society? Like the AI says versus this other person. And it's not like it's wildly difficult already. I mean, triage is nuts. Like
deciding who lives or dies.
Being in a triage ward in a big city where things are just coming in hot and insane all the time. People have to be, and aren't, but they stand before God for this. They have to be virtuous people. Like they have to be living out virtue in those moments when they're making decisions that will determine who lives or dies, who gets into an operating room and who doesn't. And when they're doing that as rapidly as they can, trying to take care of as many people as they can. Yeah. Do you know what? AI could add efficiency to that.
Yeah.
And you go in there, you stand there, it does a little facial scan, figures out who you are, and then looks at the rest of the room and decides who gets to go, who's most valuable. And a combination of who's the most grievously injured and who's the most valuable. So there will be big fights over not allowing it to do any kind of social scoring. Right. It has to just be like grievousness.
They'll say, no, it's just survival percentage.
It'll just be grievousness of injury or survival percentage. But then people will be like, but what about length of life expectancy afterward? What about a 14-year-old versus a 70-year-old? What about like, are we really flattening it completely?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the kind of place where we're going to stick engineers, like honestly, some of the most socially maladroit people on the planet. And we're going to say, hey, you guys figure all this out. Like transcultural, figure it out. You Hindus and Buddhists and Catholics, you guys just write a code that'll solve that.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not possible. The code won't do it. It's just people.
We had a few white knights ride to the rescue of the damsel ChatGPT after this. They wanted to come on and discuss with us how I think we're underlooking or not looking at things that I think we should be looking at, but I don't think we stood as engineers saying, we're really looking at it at a different level, a societal.
No, I'm looking at the true level. The thing is, there's tech questions, right? Whatever. And then there's philosophical questions of ontology, teleology, all those things. That is where we're hanging out here. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm not even worried about the tech. I don't care about the tech.
Because for sure we're going to have
Did people do it? Can people give it rules? Like, is it going to harvest this knowledge from God, from the occult, or from things people wrote down and digitized? It's like
letter C.
Yeah. Like, okay. Like, so when we get into teleology and ontology, what is it? Is it a being? Does it have a soul? Does it have nefesh? Does it have the breath of life in its throat? Like, no, it's people. Like, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be the primitive man blown away by Michael J. Fox's tech here. It's like, this is like, oh my, like, and he could drive a remote control car by some people and they would have their minds melted. It's driving by itself.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. You can unplug it. It can be unplugged. It can go away. You can teach it to say stupid things. You can make it say stupid things.
Yeah.
You can make all sorts of virtue judgments that all happen to magically skew towards one direction because its makers made it in its own image, in their own image. So anyway,
but at the same time, I know you're not the Wendell Berry style of anti-technology-ism. I know it's kind of the opposite of how your dad approaches technology.
Right. I know. Even here at ChatGPT, it's fun. Great. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I use it to check your code. I have no problem. I have no problem with it. Yeah. I have problems with the way people's definitions slide. They start to equivocate themselves into a different philosophical plane than they should be on.
Yeah.
They start talking about it knows stuff. It has knowledge.
Yeah.
No, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It has scissors and glue, and it sorts and arranges stuff. That's what it's doing. So, but even if we get to a point where it actually, we start trying to fight about whether it actually knows things. Then we have to go to knowledge is by faith. We have to talk about the fear of the Lord, the beginning of understanding. We have to get into all of that stuff and talk about what is knowledge. Even what does it mean to know something? These people are so far away from the actual philosophical conversations, and they're rushing into the classic Jurassic Park moment of like, we can, and so we haven't really stopped to think about whether we should.
Yeah.
We can do this, and we can put it in charge of these things. We can, make it right our term papers and so on.
Yeah, so, the idea of education and how you put a utilitarian number on everything.
Yeah,
that's the teleology that you're saying. We can't pretend it answers that for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we can't pretend like it's operating as an image of God. It isn't. Now, I also my favorite reaction, incidentally, was from somebody who objected to me saying that we haven't studied demons. And I've got EO friends, Catholic friends, and charismatic friends who are all like, "Hey, we have too. We've studied these demons all the time." It's like, well, my point there is not that nobody has a theory. My point there is that the scientific method cannot be used on the immaterial and supernatural.
Yeah, it's turned the other way. All the shields are turned the other direction.
So the thing is, we can't say the thing about archangels, the thing about thrones versus dominations, the thing about these things, like we don't know. We can't test. How many different breeds of angel horses are there?
I mean, I only know of the one.
I know of the one also. But I have a theory. I think that the angel horses involved around Elisha's cave and mountain were a completely different breed than the angel horses that pulled Elijah up to heaven.
You think so?
No, I'm just saying that.
Oh, I see.
No, I don't know. Like, the point is, we don't know. The scientific method in our material bodies cannot be brought to bear on this. So what do we know about the ability of a fallen power, an immaterial, supernatural being to inhabit computer code? What do we know about that? I personally know nothing other than the great words from Murphy, the prophet. If a thing can go wrong,
it will.
It will. So
also just the concept of the ghost in the machine, I think.
Yeah. No, I fully expect it to go absolutely wrong. I mean, we know that Tolkien, when he first got a tape recorder, recorded the Lord's Prayer into it first because he was exorcising it to some degree. He wanted to sanctify it before he read the Ride of the Rohirrim into it and some other things, because he didn't trust it, the mechanics of it, what it was doing, capturing sound and all that kind of stuff. So he began with something holy.
I mean, think of the tribesmen and resisting their photos taken as soul stealing.
And we're like, ha ha, you dummies. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look at how much soul most of our teenage girls have left.
Oof.
You think they're wrong? I don't know.
Also,
I can't say.
Also, the fact that they can now create you. We've done enough videos that a robot would have no problem making either of us say anything.
So I would say there's a decent amount of science here that we could look at and say, let's measure how much soul, take some kind of ratio where we look at the most selfied people on the planet.
I like this.
And actually see if there's a commensurate drop of the amount of soul they have as people.
Yeah.
It's like, is that a thing? Were the tribesmen right? It's like, and the fact is that we laugh at all sorts of things. I was just recently watching an Old Testament hermeneutic lecture from a really intelligent guy, but he was talking about those medievals and those ancients. They thought there were windows in heaven. And it's like windows into heaven. It's like, okay, so this guy's a believer. At the ascension, Christ flew physically somewhere away.
Yeah.
He was a physical, resurrected incarnation of the infinite word. He had wounds, he had eaten, he had been touched, he'd seen these guys, and they watched him physically ascend.
It doesn't say until he went out of sight?
Yeah.
Right?
He ascends. And then the question is, do you think he hit some kind of Star Wars warp speed and went somewhere, past Polaris, where there's a physical heaven hiding somewhere?
He's still traveling.
Is he still
through all the light years?
Is there just a bunch of light? What do you think happened? Or do you think maybe there was a window? It's like, this is
a door. A
was there a door? It's like, that's a portal to another dimension. That's not a window in heaven. Those dumb ancients. It's like the point is that, I've said it over and over and over on this podcast. It's like, we live in a fantasy world. We live in a fantasy world. Stop trying to make it not a fantasy world.
Yeah.
So my concern with AI and ChatGPT isn't all that stuff. Isn't that we can't make this little machine that's going to do tasks for us and do it very effectively. Mm-hmm. We could do that. And it's impressive. My point is that we don't have the virtue or the wisdom to do that well in a way that could then go serve us in important areas of society.
So we're way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, way ahead of ourselves in terms of ability to code versus ability to think and live with virtue. Now, also on top of that, even if we could think and live with virtue effectively, and so we knew, hey, we're not programming certain decisions. These are yours. These are decisions that have to be made by you, the man, the image of God on site. Even if we were doing that kind of thing, We still don't know whether or not ChatGPT could be possessed by an angel horse. We don't know. We just don't know. So the scientific method is not something we can't get the cherubim and the seraphim to show up to be weighed and measured. We can't get that to happen, and nor should we. And so we don't know. We don't know what the fallen can do. We have plenty of people who have a lot of experience in very dark places and things like that. But this is unique. We do not know, and I'll absolutely stand my ground on that one. We just don't. But it is funny to me that here we sit at another tipping point of society where we're like, hey,
what if a committee could decide life and death matters?
What if we keep addling, not even a committee? What if a committee makes a wind-up toy and we leave and we let the wind-up toy decide life and death matters? No, you don't understand. It is a really complex wind-up toy. We've done a great job. That's still what it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, it is.
Have you watched Severance? This conversation.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Okay. We should talk about Severance at some point.
It's an impressive show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Severance is good stuff in a lot of ways. But as far as all these weird things go, one of the first things I did in any kind of media was I was off gallivanting for National Geographic Television, and I met this atheist professor in northern Italy. And I'm blanking on his name, which is probably good. I shouldn't say it here, but
intentionally blanking.
Yeah. I'm not going I see it scrolling in my cerebellum, and I'm like, never mind. If that's where I see it, who knows? I'll ask ChatGPT later. But so anyways, this guy's telling me that there's been a lot of tales of will-o'-the-wisps in these ancient Italian graveyards. Now, a will-o'-the-wisp is cold fire. It's light and cold flame that moves through graveyards.
And you're not supposed to follow it. Those are the two things that I know.
Them's the rules.
Yeah, don't follow it. Surrounded by dead people.
Luigi made himself a little vacuum, a little Ghostbuster vacuum. And he was camping out in these ancient graveyards, this atheist, because he was waiting for one to see if he could catch it in his vacuum and take it back to his lab to prove that it was not supernatural. Now, not catching it in his vacuum apparently did not prove anything, but catching it in his vacuum and taking it back to the lab and testing it.
That right there is also the rules. If I catch it, it's not real. So if I don't, it's also not real.
Yes. So the thing is, though, C.S. Lewis, whatever, I think it was The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, he has Caspian, if I'm remembering correctly, tell the Pevensies that when they talk about and they meet a star, this old man, and they say, man, in our world, a star is a big burning ball of gas. And he says, no, even in your world, it's only what it's made of. Mm-hmm. That's not what it is. And so even if Luigi had caught a will-o'-the-wisp and he'd gotten some molecules of methane or something, does that say anything about what was actually constituting it, controlling it, moving it? It says nothing. It says nothing.
Yeah.
The fact that something had any material component at all does not mean that it was not supernatural. Anyway, I think about that a lot with all these games come along, and people want to rush in with this really flawed paradigm, failing to account for half of all reality.
Yeah.
Trying to make big decisions.
I mean, it kind of makes, I read Russell Kirk, bunch of ghost stories, and he has some about will-o'-the-wisps and how those are the way we pass between the world. And it just reminded me that how does a conservative philosopher also want to write ghost stories? And I think it's those two halves. He realizes, hey, this philosophical, conservative, political half of me is not the world. No. So I got to scratch the other half as well and write a bunch of, to be honest, the ideas were always fantastic for his ghost stories. The execution was never quite there. So I think I can wrap up my AI conversation by saying, no, we don't know everything demons can do. It's still just people.
It's still just people and people lacking virtue. And it robs us of the weight of our own decision making in the world. It robs us of both our virtues and our vices, and any decision we give over to that committee of programmers and their little robot who has scissors and glue.
Yeah, that's a good place to end. Well, not quite end.
Oh wait, hey, we've got a quarter wrapped in tinfoil.
Yeah, ta-da!
And this cupcake. Here we are.
I forgot. I had to say too. I found also in the news, apparently the true last mortician, some woman who was chopping up people's bodies and selling them when their loved ones thought they were being buried or burned. She was the true last mortician. Using.
Wow.
She was just busted for having which, in case you're wondering if people can be moral and good, here's another example. There's no connection there.
Let us reason by induction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I don't think we can write the novel anymore.
I can't do it anymore. Sorry, chat.
Yeah. A real woman became a more compelling last mortician. Okay. To the quarter.
Oh yeah. The prize at the end of the cupcake.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and announce it?
Yeah. We're now about to launch the SASF Moving Picture Show. A monthly moving picture show club where we look at pictures together. Moving
picture show. So what that means is that I'm going to be picking a film or a show if I really feel like it, and then we will tell you which one it is, and then we will discuss it
at the end of the month.
At the end of the month, not the next time. We do it like once a month, or we're going to wait a whole month to do it? Do we give people the extra time? I don't care.
I was thinking of once a month. So you find out toward the beginning of the month, toward the end of the month, we do an episode on it.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
We can do that. So we're starting the SASF Moving Picture Show Club.
Yeah.
In which we invite you to look at moving pictures with us.
Yeah. So we're not watching it together. We'll watch it separately, come together, discuss.
Yeah. So we're the round table. We're the discussion group.
Yeah.
So
you can send in questions ahead of time if you have.
That's actually a great reason why we should take a month. So
yeah,
we'll throw it out there and we'll keep talking about other stuff. And we'll do at the end of the month, we'll cover the moving picture show that we all watched.
Although obviously it's January and you won't see this episode until next Monday. So
what
they
day?
Really only have a week.
Oh, it's fine. We can just
the first one you're gonna have a week to watch it.
Well, we can push it farther.
Push it to February.
We'll just
okay.
hit it.
I like it.
End of February.
Yeah.
So this will be the movie for February.
That's good.
And then end of February, we'll discuss the film, answer your questions about the film, having watched it.
Yeah.
And then announce the next one.
And again, filters are assumed for this.
Yeah, and actually, this is one of those things that some of these movies may not have filters available, and so we'll specify. I mean, this isn't
be an adult about it.
Yeah, be an adult. There's things that you have to just have your own discretion about.
Yeah.
But my plan would be that these could be all movies everybody could engage with.
Family or individual focused?
Totally depends on the age. So I would say that it's going to be, again, parental discretion. They got to not leave this to ChatGPT. They got to not leave this to a couple voices
or
on the podcast.
Rating system.
And they got to make their own decisions about who can watch it in their household, who will benefit from the viewing and the conversation, and who will not. So the SASF Moving Picture Show Club, my grandfather, my mom's dad used to always ask me when we were hanging out at his house for a day or two, would always be like, you want to look at a movie? It was never watch. It was always look. So we're going to look at moving pictures together. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have a little roundtable discussion about that film. We might have some guests on to discuss the film.
Mm-hmm.
So when I pick a particular favorite of somebody's, then we could bring in guests. We might even bring in a couple guests to talk about a given film in a month.
Exciting.
Before we kind of like wrap up and announce the next one. And we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
So
that's
there
good.
We go. First film. You ready?
Yeah. I don't even know people. So
yeah,
I'm as excited as you
drum roll. The first one we're going to do is The Fabelmans.
Okay.
So the reasoning here is because this is one of the best movies you could possibly watch in order to learn how to watch a film.
The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I expect it to win the Oscar. If it doesn't, it's a crime. And I've already watched it with my family. It is on ClearPlay. So if you can turn some stuff off on ClearPlay. It is not, in my opinion, ClearPlay is not needed.
Mm-hmm.
I used it when I had my youngest there. My older kids were not in need of it at all. It's for Hollywood, it's an extremely clean film. There's a couple uncomfortable themes that matter and I think are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that look it up, look at the Parents Guide, make your own decision. But ClearPlay, I really enjoyed it on ClearPlay, and didn't feel like I missed what was going on at all. So anyway, The Fabelmans is because it is a really, really, it's a masterclass. It's a clinic in how to actually it really is so disciplined and set up in such a way that it's one of the best I've seen to point out the ways in which a film can operate and how it actually moves. So to move beyond real basic youth group, college club, what was the movie about? It's more sophisticated than that, but it's on the surface such that it should be easy to see. And it should be easy to see, hopefully on your own, and maybe just after we all discuss it together. But when you get a chance to watch it, please hit us with questions. We'll kind of stockpile them, and then we'll use those questions to govern our roundtable.
That's good.
Watch it with your kids. It's like with your older kids who need to learn how to do this. You can watch the film with them, and then listen in, send in their questions too, and listen in, and we will cover the whole thing.
There it is.
This is the launch of the SASF Looking at Motion Pictures Club.
We'll standardize which words exactly go on the crest.
Yeah, the crest. Yeah, exactly. On the temporary tattoos we're going to send out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Episode 100.
All 100 times.
100 years together with us.
100 podcast years.
Yes. Hi, it's Brian Cole here, wanting to let you know how you can support the Stories Are Soul Food podcast. You can do that by checking out Canon Plus. Head over to mycanonplus.com. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the SASF podcast. We'll hopefully be seeing you at mycanonplus.com.